one action item, and that is to approve a Europe trip for 2022.
Yes, so as you may recall, last month we talked about the fact that they canceled the trip for this summer, which was nice. So they're talking about potentially doing the trip next summer, so the summer of 2022. And they need to set some tentative dates for that so that they can advertise, they can work with the company. I mean, nothing is set in stone. We can still, you know, if things don't clear up a little better, if we're nervous, we can always stop all of that. But for now, what they'd like to do is reschedule the dates of June 13th through June 21st, 2022. And that is open to students who would like to take a joint trip. I believe that it is, if I remember correctly, I believe it's foreign language, and it's also art. So they're doing kind of a dual purpose, and I think they brought in some history with it. So it's going to be a good trip to Europe, I think. So anyway, so that's a request that you
Right.
approve the tentative dates.
So do I have a motion to approve the Europe 2022 trip tentative dates of June 13th through June 21st of 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other comments? All right, roll call, please.
Essing?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Warren? Yes. Seaman?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Motion passes. And now, number 9, executive session. I need a motion to move into executive session for purposes of collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees, their representatives, or deliberation concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Ward? Yes. Seaman?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
All right. So I guess we have executive session here.
Yep, we're going to have it
Ask
here again, so
everyone to leave.
we're too cramped in my office.
Right.
I have a question, sorry. Do I have a chance to speak at all, or is that later in the meeting?
That was the visitors and correspondence portion.
That's in the beginning? Okay.
Yes.
I work in a high school, and I actually asked my superintendent, like, how do I go about this? And she said, you'll have time to speak at the end. So that's why, sorry, I had.
Anyone have an issue with?
No.
No, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. Again, I'm Shelley Patterson, I have 2 sons here, freshman and senior. I also, at first I just want to say thank you for everything you guys do. I do understand that working in a school is very challenging, just having to check to see what kids touched, contact tracing and all of that. I'm a school social worker at Mackinac High School. I work there part-time so I can understand some of what you guys go through here at school. Part of my reason for being here is twofold. Did I hear you guys correctly that we are planning to go into second semester the same way with the, okay. And that is set in stone already, or?
Unless something changes for the guidelines.
Okay.
For our guidelines.
Okay. I guess I just have some questions in regard to that. I don't know if this is a back and forth or if it's just me voicing my opinion here, but hearing you, Dr. Freeman, speak about how most of the exposure is outside of the school and it's contained better inside of the school, I'm wondering how are we benefiting our students by remaining in the 50% session versus maybe reintroducing kids into the school. I recognize Mackinac is a smaller district, but we're in school all day long with the exception of getting out. We're dismissed 1 hour early each day. So I guess I'm struggling to understand how that is benefiting our kids educationally. I also come from a social and emotional perspective where I said to you, I liked hearing what you said in the beginning because obviously the physical health is critical. I'm not discounting that, but at the same time, mental health is absolutely critical. And as a social worker, I'm naturally more passionate about that. I'm not looking for anyone to die here. That's not what I'm saying. But I also am working with a lot of students who are struggling with depression, some of which already maybe had some depression and this is exacerbating it. Others who are feeling more isolated like you had noticed. But there are also kids that are remote learning and I am having a hard time with that. Not all of the kids that are remote learning are doing so for health purposes. Some of them are doing it, and let's be honest, because it's easier. And I don't have to do the same stuff I have to do when I'm in school. From an educational standpoint, kids absolutely benefit from being in contact with the teachers and learning while present. So I guess we have a lot of D's and F's in our remote learners. I don't know what Washington's DF list looks like, but I just have concerns about the educational standpoint as well as the mental health standpoint. And that's kind of why I'm here. I do appreciate what you're doing. I wish I had attended more meetings than this. I guess I've never had a complaint or an issue until now, where I'm really struggling right now with hearing that we're supposed to go into the second semester the same way. I feel like we need to maybe, as you said, we were flying the plane as we're building it, maybe we need to kind of add on to that plane as, you know, maybe reintroduce, do something a little different here. And as a parent to the district, I hope that we have some say. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of questionnaire that will be sent to parents again, or how that will work, but I'm hopeful that this is not set in stone. That is what I have to say, so.
Can I hit a few of your topics?
Absolutely.
So part of what we deal with 1,440 kids in a building that originally wasn't designed for that type of crowd, okay, is just the compaction. If we had full school, if we had every kid in classes, that one call I got this weekend probably would have resulted in 30 quarantines. And that's part of the problem, because then we're pulling kids out of class, and now you're out for 14 days, and it causes so much confusion to the system. And, you know, we are big enough that we have multiple cases. We're dealing with multiple cases every week. I can think of a case earlier this year that was rough enough. It had 24 impacted. Had we been in normal session, that probably would have been about 70 kids. And so that's part of the problem, it's just the size of the school that we are. As far as ISB is concerned, I ran this by the attorney. We had a very candid conversation about a couple of things. ISB said directly, if a student wants to go to remote, they need to be allowed to go to remote. Okay? Now, we've tried to put some parameters on that, try to keep people here, because I think you need a better reason. We have some local control, but remember, we're dealing with ISB. And so ultimately, we answer to them. And so their expectations are students, whenever possible, are 6 feet apart. However, they don't want you at 2 feet. They don't want you at 3 feet. And if we do, then we are running the risk of spreading COVID more quickly. The reason that we've been able to keep our numbers down is because we've had our students 6 feet apart. And that's why this plan was put into place to begin with. And I do understand. You know, I've got a daughter who's here, who's heavily involved. And it's tough. You know, these calls that we're making, they're not because we want to. You know, we're being forced into this like everybody else. I've worked at smaller systems. I've had the advantage of doing that. Smaller systems are more flexible. That's the reality of it. And you tend to have more bigger spaces where 50 kids is a larger percentage of your population. 50 kids is the max we can have in any one space. That includes storage gym, balconies, everything.
Right.
So just feeding kids alone is impossible with 1,400 students. Because you can only have 50 in a place.
So lunch hour is impossible here because of the space. Okay, that makes sense. So would you argue then that Mackinac, for example, we don't always keep kids 6 feet apart? It is impossible also in our building as well. So I guess our numbers are incredibly low as well. So that's where and I'm not trying to be argumentative, but that's where I'm going, okay, but I mean, is that really what's doing it? I don't know. And that's just me. I have a lot of thoughts and passions about all of this, so I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No, I don't think you are. I think you're
Frustrating.
asking questions that a lot of people ask.
Uh-huh.
And these are tough times. We're doing the best we can under the guidance that we've been given to try to follow what we're expected to do, to try to protect both our students and our staff. You know, I think that I understand where you're coming from too. You know, the second we get a chance to drop back into a 7-period day, that's what we are going to do. No
Okay.
ifs, ands, or buts.
That's good to know. And will that possibly happen within the school year, or are we basically saying once second semester starts, it's staying that way?
that isn't necessarily set in stone.
Okay.
If something changes, and what we're stuck waiting for is the Phase 5 reopening plan from the governor.
Mhm.
So one of two things, a vaccine or herd immunity, those are his two general rules on what would drop the state into a Phase 5 scenario.
Okay.
Once we get to a scenario where ISB says, hey, we can increase size and numbers, I think we would revisit anything, because I think we're all in agreement
Okay.
that we want the kids back to the maximum that we can bring them back.
Sure. Well,
And
I'll, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if that happens in February, we could change.
Yes.
So
Okay.
just because we were to start the way it is now does not mean that semester
We'll
will
finish.
finish.
Okay, that's good to know. And I'll just say this, I am happy to get on board if you need my help with anything. I've tried contacting Darren LaHood, I've tried contacting our governor, all the phone numbers, can't get through. So if there is, he's not gonna listen to us anyway, let's be real here. But if there's anything that I can do to help, I would be willing to do that, because I'm fully on board. My children are not, with going back more than 3 hours. They would be angry with me for saying this, honestly. They are loving it, but they're the exception. I think there are a lot of kids that would appreciate it, I think, going back too. So if there's anything I can do, I will say I'm on board with trying to help. I can't change the size of the school building and the capacity and all that, but.
Well, we definitely appreciate it. I mean, our parents are truly supportive, and we are very blessed in that, knowing how difficult all of this has been for everybody.
Mhm.
Everybody's been very patient. They've been easy, they've been good to work with. You know, people tend to support what we do, and we don't want to take advantage of that. So, and I think Mrs. Essex said it best, if we get to a spot beginning of next semester, I'll tell you what, if we can shift gears in December, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
We set this up as kind of an in-between, between the extreme of remote and the full, everybody's back the full period, so that we could move either direction quickly,
Okay.
okay? And that was part of the plan. So if we haven't expressed that out to the public very well, maybe that's something I could work on to make sure that everybody understands. Our plan is to get back to a 7-period a day. That's
Okay.
where we want to be. We want high school to go back to what the kids know, what we understand, and what is best for them. And that's the most important.
Okay.
And our employees, so much easier for the teachers, the way we're having
Yes.
to do it. And the strain on them.
Absolutely.
Because this is tough on teachers. This has been a very difficult process for
Mhm.
teachers. You know, and I will say there's a lot of anxiety amongst the staff, but we seem to be in a much better place right now.
Mhm. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
sorry about the confusion.
No, that's okay. Mackinac just does it differently, maybe.
So, okay.
Well,
So
with
now,
that being said,
I think everyone's,
we have.
oh, I'm sorry, yeah. did you-
No, that's okay.
More
All right.
support. Good job.
Nope. Yeah. Good.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll drop into the next.